today. It seems like we're going to be okay. Right? So now, it's a base like and I'm giving you even the guys here. Look, you're like you're mamish in the base medrash because that where it says Rabbi Kallus, that's the base medrash over here. It's like mamish. It's only half a fella. No. When the Goyim are going to say at the end of time, the Gemara the Gemara says that at the end of time, the Goyim are going to comment. They're going to say everything we did for the Jews, and not only that, there's some midrashim that are mashma. They have a different gear. Everything we did for loim day Torah. Some midrashim say for Jews, some midrashim say for Torah, and some midrashim say for loim day Torah. And the Goyim are going to come at the end of time and say everything that we did was for loim day Torah. No, so the Gemara says that they're going to say shaitim. You did it for yourselves. So the Brisker Rav the kasha. What's this lashon shaitim? Shaitim is you get into a fight and the guy is losing the fight. He says, "You fool." That's how you know you won the fight. So why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say shaitim? He should say shakranim, aligana, you liars. You did everything for the Jews. You did not. So the answer is Dr. Brisker Rav. Everything that they did is for Loim Day Torah. Every single thing that you see is for Loim Day Torah. There's airwaves and there's all types of things that they chopped up with all these computers and all this and all these, right? Every USB that was ever made in this world was for one purpose, Loim Day Torah. Nothing else. Every single computer chip that was ever made was for Loim Day Torah. Nothing else. People use it for Avera. People learn Torah for Avera too. You could learn Torah Lekanter also. Everything that they said to Brisker Rav, it's shaitim. They're fools. They're not shakranim. They're fools because they think that when they do it, Shalei Lishma, they do it with the kavanah for their Averas, they think they deserve schar for that. That is foolish. That's shaitim. But shakranim, they're not shakranim. It's 100% every emes. Everything they do is for Loim Day Torah. Imagine this, Rabbi say, you believe this? Imagine this. These computers over here, when the guy who made them, he was thinking of every Avera you shouldn't think of, but he was thinking of every imaginable Avera that you can imagine, that you shouldn't imagine, right? And he didn't dream that this is going to be used for Heiligkeit, for Torah Kedusha. They made microphones so that some guy can get up and do his Averas. They made all this, they made speakers so that the guy shaitim. Everything that they did was for Loim Day Torah. Everything. So let me again, Rabbi say, that's Hashem. So first, I want to be messiahing with the yanim that we spoke about with Turkish coffee. So I tried to make a Turkish coffee today in my cold style. As you've known, I've been making my cold coffees lately. And I must tell you, Rabbi say, that you can't make a Turkish coffee cold. Right? Is that a correct statement, Rabbi Guy? Okay. I made a Turkish coffee cold. You can't even make this stuff hot. But I made a Turkish coffee cold today, thinking I was going to come in and say, Rabbi, I don't know what the whole rash is. They bake it. You can make it cold. You can drink it cold. You can't drink it cold. And I've been suffering for the last 2 hours based on that. But you can't make a Turkish coffee cold. It's basically not doing anything. It's taking a lot of dirt and throwing it into cold water, and it doesn't do anything. Mamish doesn't even call it. It's pellets, even less than tea. Which brings me to a thought, which I have more to say. Pashtis is that a Turkish coffee, I would have said you can make it a klish lishi, because a Turkish coffee is no less than any spice, a tavlin that we have at Sad, you could even make in a klisheni. Elamai Ramachmir, because we don't know what's a spice, etc. But we said coffee is something which is certainly hard. And the fact that you mamish have to, you have to maybe pour hot water on it. And the fact that now that it's thin pieces, so then it's easier to be cooked, but it starts out hard. He said that's hard to understand, that if something started out a kasha bishul, the fact that you chopped it up into little pieces, the is not going to turn it into a kal bishul. As we spoke about b'shaita, but upon him, Turkish coffee is an interesting creature. I would have thought he should be able to make it in a klish lishi. I would have thought, because like we're saying, we don't find things that cook in a klish lishi unless it starts out rach vidak. I would have thought that the most we should be machmir is not a klisheni, because they also bake the Turkish coffee. They roast the Turkish coffee in order to get it. And that's what says it on the packet, at least, that it's actually roasted beforehand. So now you're doing bishul achrafia, which itself is a machlekes, which will be machmir a klisheni, and will be made on the klish lishi. That's what I would have thought. And I still think like that. The only thing is, I saw one sefer that he says that the Turkish coffee, if you see that mamish, when you put cold water, that's what I was trying to do his test. If you see when you put it in cold water, it doesn't do anything. So you see, this might be mamish like so I didn't understand what he wants. Is that a raya that something should be a super kali bishul, or is that what's that a raya? Is that a raya that it's a shea bishul or a kal bishul? When I put it into cold water and it doesn't work, what would that be a raya to? What do you think? Kasher bishul, right? I thought that it was a raya that it's the most kasher bishul. I thought it was a raya that the only thing I was trying to bring a raya was, did the afia process do enough of a process that it's already, drinkable, like we tried out our Eitzah with the roasted coffee when we tried out with the intense coffee. I decided to say that's much of a cliche because you see the process of the afiyah was so successful that it made it that it could even be edible in a cliche in cold water. So that would have proved that, but it doesn't prove the opposite. I saw a sefer. I don't understand Rabbi said. He writes that Turkish coffee you shouldn't be allowed to put into a kli shlishi. He says why? He says look, because when you take the coffee and you put it even into cold water, nothing happens. I don't understand what I just said. Does anybody understand? If you can explain it to me, I'll tell you the sefer called the Minchas Ish, and he's saying there's something over there to argue on the Orcha Shabbos on something. Both of them I didn't understand, but the Minchas Ish, he writes over there that Turkish coffee maybe you shouldn't be able to make even in a kli shlishi. Bentayim, I don't see why you shouldn't make it in kli shlishi. I think pashit, it's the most kosher bishul imaginable. Why we don't let you make it in kli sheni is because we're chayshish for the shitas of yesh bishul achafiyah, and we don't know what's a tavlin. Okay, I could hear that, right? I could have heard a person making it even in a kli sheni, but that far, no, maybe not. The gabe lush, we spoke shaita, that lush isn't such an issue because nobody, unless you're doing, sometimes they make this like mud first, and then they put the milk in after, they have a whole malach, or they put the water in after that. I'm talking just pour it in, and you just let it settle to the bottom on its own. So lush ein kan, in a kli shlishi, bishul ein kan, Mishalom al Yisrael. I see from this computer to this computer, and you guys will see in a minute, there's definitely a time delay, and without there's definitely a time delay, I would not answer amen to my bracha. I wouldn't answer amen to the bracha. I'm being asked, is it more than a second? The answer is, first of all, they're saying it's more than a second. They're saying it's 3 seconds. That's first of all. Second of all, even if they wouldn't say that, but that's today, right? What'll be tomorrow and what'll be the next day, and so I'm not suggesting anyone answers amen. I'm suggesting that no one answers amen. He just doesn't listen, etc. That's second. Just would like to have this computer tomorrow. Okay. And the little fiscus girls, they can hear or no? Akapanim, the youngest girls in the Kallus. That's number one. Number two, Rabbi Yisai, is, let me explain for one moment how they make coffee. It's important that we know. We talk about coffee all the time. How do they make coffee? How to make coffee. So the instant coffee is made in different ways. I'm talking about instant coffee that we'll talk about now, the instant coffee, which is, yes, fully cooked, not the one that they put inside it, other granules and other types of stuff. And let's talk about the one which is taka fully cooked. How do they make instant coffee? So one second. This could probably ruin a computer. What? No. I think it's okay. I just want to make sure I got every piece because it could ruin the computer. Okay. The way they make, let's say, the regular instant Nescafe, or whichever ones you want to call them, the regular Nescafes, etc., is like this. They basically take the bean, they roast the bean. They roast it up very strong, especially when they're making an instant coffee. They roast it up very, very stark for a very long time, not just in an oven for half an hour. They do a very, very strong process of a roasting, and it's a very hot. The bean, they then take that bean and they cook it. They basically cook it up, and they get afterward some type of a syrup. Right? This is one of the processes I'll upon it. They get some type of a syrup, and then it is fully cooked. That syrup is the strongest coffee that is known to mankind. That's what Starbucks serves in Guatemala. Okay, that's a very, very strong syrup. Afterward, now there's two processes that they have in this syrup. One process they have in the syrup is about 2 or 3 processes. One process is that they freeze dry it. They just take that, and that's why they'll say on the coffee jar, it'll say freeze dried sometimes. What they do is that it's a funny thing. They use it like as a selling point, as if this makes any difference to anybody's life at all. It's freeze dried. What did I just say? Nothing. But it sounds something different. So what they do is they take it and they freeze dry it. They basically freeze it and they crystallize it. Thank you very much. We're back in business. And everybody hears me over here also? Everybody hears me? No, I'm getting thumbs down. 1 second. I'm getting waving hands. I'm getting.
It's not as clear as before.
Let's go down a little bit more because it's too high for the oil.
The oil missed the beginning of the Mitzias. Rabbi could repeat.
Okay, but now everyone hears me? Now you guys hear me on the computer? Kallus discussions.
Could Rabbi repeat the oil beginning of the Mitzias?
Now they hear me? What's with you? The speakers are off. What speakers are off? Maybe it's interfering. How's now? Do you guys hear me now?
The oil missed a little bit.
Now they hear me. Yeah?
Could Rabbi repeat?
I'll repeat. Don't worry. I'll repeat. But everyone hears me now? Even Danny? Even Danny. Okay. So everybody say, now I'm relaxed again. I haven't been relaxed in a few days. So everybody say, everybody hears me, right? Now I'm not going to ask you again. Does the Fiscus girls hear me? Right? You girls hear me, right? They hear me. Now everybody say, the way they do it is now they have one of two processes. After they roast the bean and they cook the bean, there's one of two processes or three processes that they could do at this point with the bean. What they could do is they could take the coffee, this juice, this syrup of sorts, whatever, and they could basically freeze dry it. What does it mean to freeze dry? They basically freeze it, they crystallize it. It's a process which is a flash freezing. It's a very, very fast, effective process. It freezes the bean that's the syrup that's there. And then they basically take that frozen cube and they break it up into the coffee that you have. And that's one way of making coffee. If that's the way they make coffee, so then life is very simple. The last process that has been undergone is the process of Bishul. It went from Afiyah to Bishul, and now we're in a Bishul process. What's the din of something that was already previously baked and previously cooked? For sure, there's no problem really even technically to put it inside a Kli Rishon. However, we're machmir, we don't put it inside a Kli Rishon, we put it inside a Kli Sheni, and that would be simple. Which is why if you have the regular Taster's Choice and the regular Nescafe and it's freeze-dried, it says on the jar freeze-dried, the chayra, it's no problem, you can put her inside a Kli Sheni, okay? I'm gonna ask you guys one more time. It's like you guys hear me, right? Everybody, you guys hear me? Good. That's one process. Another process, what they do is that after they will bake it and then cook the water, now they have the syrup, they will take that syrup and they will roast the syrup. Now you can't roast syrup, okay? They call it a roasting process. You cannot roast syrup, okay? So what they do is they just basically take this syrup and they heat it up into extreme temperatures, which evaporates the liquid. Granted, they save that liquid and they make other products with it, etc. But they heat it up in a very, very, very strong process. And basically it bakes it, roasts it, whatever you want to call it. And it gets all the way to the point of where it gets hardened, all the way to the point where it gets to a point of where it's gelled. You know, there's some type of a murky coffee-looking thing, some Turkish coffee-looking creature. And then afterward, they take this murky thing and they keep on roasting it until they will get to the point where it's charred, until the point of where you're going to get your granules. I'm oversimplifying the process, but that's the second process. That process, in my understanding, could be a nidoy. Do we now consider that it had undergone a afiyah process, and now it had undergone a bishul process, and now it had undergone another afiyah process? In other words, this liquid got cooked until the point where it was called roasted, until you have now in front of you dry roasted granules. That's debatable. That's debatable, because you could look at it that perhaps that's just a continuation of the cooking process. In other words, what happens when I take something, and this goes into the svars that we spoke about sleek here, and I take a cholent and I just let it cook until the point of where the cholent gets burnt. So does that now have a din of an afiyah, or is it still considered the end of a bishul? This is debatable. Here it's a little bit more debatable, but what are we dealing with here? That means we're dealing with, at worst, an afiyah, a bishul, achar afiyah, achar bishul, achar afiyah. We never saw anybody that discussed such a case here. Again, you're going to now put it inside your, let's say, Kli Sheni. You want to know, can I put this Nescafe, this Taster's Choice, which was not freeze-dried, which had the roasting process done to it? And some of them are misgod, that they had a roasting process done to it. So you want to know, can I put her inside a Kli Sheni? So you have here something, I'm doing a bishul now, Kli Sheni, let's say, is a bashal. to something that was baked, to something that was then previously cooked, to something that beforehand was baked, was roasted. We have no precedence to such a shayla. We don't have anybody that deals even with such a shayla. The most we have is that the Mishnah Berurah discusses a shayla of just what? Oh, the most we have is the Bialacha, that the Bialacha discusses the shayla of Bishul, Akarafia, Akarbishul. That's the most that we have. We never have somebody that discusses already 4 processes. Even on that, it's a suffix. But upon him, it is a suffix. And I have a tzad always that coffee, you're allowed to put in a klisheni, because coffee itself might have a status of a tavlin, and Rav Moshe didn't understand why it shouldn't be a tavlin. This is why if someone asks me, Me'ikra din, could he put coffee into a klisheni? The answer is yes. Do you want to know, is there a mila in putting it into a klishlishi? Rav Moshe told us already there's a mila in putting it into a klishlishi. Because first of all, they could change the process, like we keep saying. They could put inside of it uncooked coffee, et cetera, et cetera. They could put inside flavorings, like we saw yesterday. And therefore, it is kedai probably to put into a klishlishi. But it's certainly Medina, it's mutter to put inside a cliche. So that's a kind the inyan of the tavlin. And now, Mr. Shem, we're going to go to the big sukkahs of Eroy. Does everybody see me? Because I see they're frozen. Okay. Now, by saying, I should mention, because we're going to talk a lot of kashrus things today. There's something I keep talking about, and I never, the kashrus discussed it. You just realize, Rabbi, I keep talking about taking a challah and putting it on top of a challah pot. We always talk about, because it's already previously baked, we spoke about all of the inyanim with the frost, etc., all these inyanim. You have to remember, Rabbi, that challah, she is now fleishiks. Okay? I don't know if you, I do know, if you eat that challah, you don't have to wait 6 hours from that challah for milk. That has to do with the sukkahs of Basar challah. But upon him, you can't eat her with a piece of cheese now. Right? Again, shal shudis and whatnot. Person wants it. Why? Because the way that the cholent works, and that's the halacha Yeridea, is that the cholent goes straight through the blias that are coming from the cholent, touch the lid of the cholent, and kivyachol, any food that is on top of your cholent pot sucks up the bliya of the pot. Right? Even if it's glass, the Ashkenazim are machmar glass, okay, more machmar. So that means it doesn't matter. No, so let me explain the case first. So if you take a cholent, you take the challah, you put it on top of the cholent pot. In that lid are blias that are cooking straight through. And now you put it there. That, at least the klipa's worth, I'm not saying if it's the entire challah, but at least the bottom layer of, so for example, if you take that, a piece of silver foil, is that what you're about to ask, Lindsay? If you take a piece of silver foil and you cover the lid with a piece of silver foil, so now no blias can get through to the challah. Because my bliya has to go from kli to kli. Kli means, let's call it, I'm looking at my cholent pot right now, which is a glass lid. So it means it has to go from the glass lid, and then after the glass lid, a bliya has to come out of the lid, go into the next lid, the silver foil, and then from the silver foil to go to the cholent. That bliyas can't do. Bliyas don't have the ability to do that. Bliyas can't go from a kli to kli unless there's roitiv in between, unless there's a liquid in between. Okay, so now you have to know, is there a liquid in between? And how much liquid? The Chavos inside the base says it has to be a respectable amount of liquid. I can't go into all kashrus now, but you do have to know. If you take a challah and you put it on top of a cholent pot, or any food for that matter, you want to take cake. Sometimes people do this. They want to take cake and they want to heat it up at the end of the meal. To have a nice hot cake, a nice hot brownie or something like that. It's cooked already, nothing to do with Hilchos Bishul. So they take it and they put it on straight on top of the cholent pot. So if it was in a silver foil underneath, it's no problem, because then the bliya won't be able to go, assuming it's not wet, etc. But if there's no silver foil in between, you take the brownie and you put it straight on top of the cholent. So it's true. After that cake, you're not going to have to wait 6 hours. But you can't take that cake and dip it inside your milk coffee, or let's say inside of a milk onion soup. You can't dip that not the cake. I mean the piece of bread or whatever. You won't be able to make French toast with her. Okay. Oh, so Rabbi Blinder's asking. This is the $1 million question. He's asking. So why are you allowed to do this? And this is Rabbi Slansky's asking. Both say what they want to know. So why are you allowed to do this? You're not allowed to make fleishik bread. What's this to make fleishik bread? Because we're afraid that you're going to eat her together with milchiks, and for sure you'll come to make that problem with challah. So here, you'll be able to say a svara that when it comes to making fleishik bread, there are certain kulas. One of the kulas is if you're doing just an amount for the upcoming meal, et cetera, usually the amount that can fit on top of a cholent pot. Anyways, I mean, I don't know how big your cholent pot is, Rabbi Blinder. Right? You don't have little 3-red girls with you anymore, do you? Right? So Mela, I can't ask you to go and get it. But apparently, Rabbi Blinder is an issue because he seems to have a very large cholent pot. But generally, the people that have very large challah, it's either because they're serving for yeshiva or because they're very large people, right? And they eat a lot, and that would be for them one serving's worth. And you are allowed to make fleshika bread of one serving's worth. Did I answer your question? Yes. Keep your mask on, please. What? We're good. What? Okay. We're good, right? You guys hear me, right? Well, you're all frozen, so I hope so. Okay. Sorry. Come again? What? I have what? Yeah, the chat's gone.
Nobody's saying anything.
I could. No. What? Okay. Sorry. Oh, so Rabbi Cooper is saying a different reason. This is another reason. These are all the Yerideic reasons. Rabbi Cooper is saying a different reason why I'm allowed to. The Isser is to make fleshika bread. But so Rabbi Cooper says, am I allowed to take a piece of bread and now put on it a piece of meat, right? And then change my mind and then take off the meat. Right? I just make fleshika bread. Maybe the only Isser is b'shas afiyah, right? Maybe it's only b'shas afiyah. Over here, it's not b'shas afiyah. It's already done. There was an Isser to make fleshika bread. And the logic, there is a logic to it, Rabbi says. But just a moment, the logic is that when you're making the bread, so then it's any man's game, what can happen after. Here, if you're going and doing something to do right now, once it's already fully baked, then probably you know what you're going to do and you're not going to come to make mistakes. There's a logic to it. These are all shaylas in your day. On top of a challah pot. You do have to remember this. I say this because I was told afterward, somebody asked me a shayla. Somebody talked, I was shocked. I didn't realize. Somebody asked me, Shaila, I spoke about the challah and putting it on top of the challah and whatnot. So somebody told me that it came out from the conversation that basically he made French toast with it Sunday morning. With that same challah that he put on the challah pot. So I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that you can't do. That you can't do. Yeah. Okay, maybe if you cut off the whole bottom, so then that was the only part that got the blias. Okay, the blias can't go maybe further than a klipa. Sorry? Really? That because it's coming out. That's because maybe the zaya shoots out. It's time to get a new challah.
No, you had a fully covered towel. It sits under long.
It's not to get a new challah. Yeah, any bread that goes on a fleshika table is assumed to be we're chayshish that it's fleshiks, right? Yeah, it's true. But let's say I'll give you an example of this and again. Let's say he's asking, so why am I making a big deal? The teretz is, let's say you have challah, and then you know what sometimes the mother does. What does she say? She says, no, everybody, right after the fish, she takes away the challah because she says she doesn't want that. Nobody's going to eat the challah, and they're not going to have an appetite. After that, now you know what goes on in my house. But no one's going to have an appetite for the challah. So a lot of times they take it after the kanir, and by nanny, they don't do that. And I don't mind going to the personal lives of everybody, but it seems to be they leave the challah on the entire meal. This isn't okay. If I say that's now Atmana we'll get to. Atmana is not going to be a problem over here because he's not putting on that piece of silver foil for the purpose of being a matman. He's putting it on, and when you're not doing the silver foil for the purpose of Atmana, that's not an issue. What about what? Could you take the challah and eat it with the fish? So the challah with the fish that goes into shayla blias, and that the shach that's in your day up in Sivan hey. So the Taz over there, he says that when it comes to blias of blias of fleshiks, blias of fish, so blias we say there's no sakana. We say it's not called sakana. The only thing is that Rabbi, come again. Over here is a tam, but it's a time of a blia, right? It's a time of the blia. But what time is going in? It's only a blia, right? Let's say it's a. Come again? He's saying the time went in. Yeah, it's a child that to learn the Taz, but the Maisa, you're right. There is a Chavos Das that learns that it's taka because it's B'shas HaManish, so maybe it'll be worse. What? Yeah, that's a Chavos Das, but I'm just thinking, man, why shouldn't the fish be a problem? Now, first of all, it's another problem. Rabbi Greenhouse is going to have a problem because it seems like he has Mam Shal Matzah, the Zayah going on in there, right? The Zayah is going into the, straight into that. That could be for sure a problem. Have a sure problem. What? No, but he's describing. You didn't listen to him. He said the whole thing. He said that the challah tastes like challah. That's what he said. Are you sure it wasn't the challah kugel? Not sure he said it. I could put him. But that's very interesting. I mean, what about the Blia? 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 Interesting. Yes, he's saying you shouldn't be able to have a fish. I'll look it up after. It's not fair to do. I'll look it up after. Remind me to look it up. Why it should be a problem here. It should be a problem that why don't we say that there's a Blia? People do this, right? Sure, people do. But what? And mom to the fish. Saying that this definitely a Blia. Sour. Venus is sour taste like chili. A big problem. The whole world does it. Okay, I have to think about this. Now, aim Blia is by sakana. That's what we're discussing over here. Aim Blia is by sakana means that the Blia, when you want to take meat and cook it into a fish pot, for example, or fish into a meat pot, even if it has blias within 24 hours, there we say there's no sakana in a blia. But here, the blia, I have to see again inside the Taz. I think there is a way to learn the Taz, not like that. Here, the blia would also be mutter. I think it is mutter. Blia. I think it is mutter. I think it is mutter. I think it is mutter. There's a passage on that. You're the cemetery. What? There's a mile of a fish pot. It's a chumra ba'alma. It's a chumra ba'alma. Chumra ba'alma. Open her up. Cemetery. What's the problem? Oh, I'm sorry, Rabbi. The problem is that how are you allowed to have this challah when you're going to put her on top of a challah pot? Now she becomes fleisha kabliyas, and those fleisha kabliyas are inside the challah, and now you want to eat it with the fish. How are you allowed to eat it with the fish? So the Taz over here has a big arichas, and I'll just read it from the Berativ because he probably is Mekatzer. He says, Pirish, Abasa Neizim Tabakayr Bakayr Bedogim. No, it should be a message. No, the blia goes into the challah, so they're not going to be worse than a blia of meat. When a blia of meat goes straight into the fish, we say even that's mutter. No, and over here, what that means? Because the chavos das. We're making on that. Okay, we're making on that. What? We're making on that company. Oh, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble. You're in big trouble. One second. It's because you're not wearing a mask. That's it. Got his fancy Adidas mask, and the rest of us with the face, the cheapy ones over there. We're making on that. Tachlis, you're in big trouble. If you take the challah and you put it on top of the cholent pot, except for you, Rabbi Green, I don't know what's going on. But if you take the challah and you put it on top of the cholent pot, and now you want to eat it together with the fish, it's mutter. Is that crystal clear? Everyone hears me? I don't know if they're hearing me. Challah tastes like cholent. Yeah, I know. We got to go by it. We didn't learn anything today. So let me get invited, Rabbi. Now, Rabbi, let me get, I'm going to stick with like kashrus mood. Should I just talk about kashrus for a second? What? No, I don't mean that. We're May Sharim. The only thing that's kosher is Badat. That's it. We're May Sharim now. No, I don't mean that. Everyone here, they're writing the names of hotels. No. I mean like this. Everybody's like, let's clear Shaila. Now that we're learning Sifyun. I'm in shtickle, like, let's get a shot. I had two interesting Shailas on Shavuos, which are mamish negayos. I don't mean those Shailas. I'm not talking about prequels. Which aren't kosher, as you know, because the way they make the process is they cook a potato first, And after they cook up that potato, it's cooked by goyim. So of course it's not kosher. That's bishul akum. That's not kosher. But that's a different choice. The potato chips is a big shot. It's a bishul akum. Got a lot of makel on because since it's made milchachila, they cut them into these thin pieces and they bake them like that. So that itself was made milchachila in an oven, which isn't royal shulchan. Okay, nice. Akapanim, but Rabbi say, see, they made the internet connection unstable. As Rabbi say, let's down a shiloh. I have two shilohs on Shavuos, which are very together. I started Sifyud. I'm a little bit ahead of my game. I still have one thing to finish at Sif test, but I got excited from it. So let's talk about it for a second. In Shulchan Aruch Sifyud, it talks about not pouring from a kli rishon. This is what you all know. It's called irui kli rishon, right? Everybody started the sugya of irui kli rishon. Irui kli rishon. You started it, Rabbi Paulson. You started it. Okay. Irui kli rishon. What's the din of irui kli rishon? Okay, so you all know. Mishabur over here in Sivkot 9 Dalet says irui is mevashal. Number one. Then the Mishabur says irui is mevashal bevadai. It's not even a suffix. Irui is mevashal bevadai. What do I mean? It's not even a suffix. There's a shittas Rashbam in Shabbos. It's also in Zvachim. And in Shabbos on Daf Mem Beis, the sheet of the Rashbam is irui is mevashal. Kedei klipa doesn't have the ability to mevashal the whole thing, but irui is mevashal. I'm sorry, Rashbam sheet is irui is not mevashal. It's like a cliche. We basket. We're not even chayshim for the Rashbam. We basket oifen vadai. Irui is mevashal. Oifen vadai. It's not even a suffix. It's oifen vadai. It's mevashal kedei klipa. It's mevashal the outside, and therefore to take spices and to pour boiling hot water on the spices. Irui is mevashal kedei klipa. Ad kedei kach. The Mishabur has a shayla. What's the kasha? Mishabur says over here. Let's say bidi eved, you poured boiling hot water from an irui klipa. What's a good example? You have your urn, and you take the urn, and you open up the urn, and the water comes straight out, geesing down. What does it geese down to? It geeses onto, Rabbi Sher told us yesterday, who knows what's going on inside these soup mixes, if there are things that aren't cooked in there, who knows? I don't know. So what happens now? You did it, and then you find out, let's say there's a suffix, but let's say afterwards someone tells you, in that one, it says on the package, uncooked, whatever, I don't know, right? So now what's the halacha? The halacha is you can't even eat that food b'di'evet because the irui is mevashal kedei klipa, and even b'di'evet, that needs to be so much whole. Irui is mevashal, no gates. Even b'di'evet it's mevashal. Good. Ad kedei kach, frek the Mishabura. Where's the Mishabura? Who knows where the Mishabura is? Mishabura is the kasha. What? B'sivkot and beis. Frek the Mishabura kasha. He says, wait a minute. You told us always that whenever we have one shita to rely on, maybe not the Maram Hugi Dugi, right? But if you have one shita that holds something is not a Maisa Shabbos, one thing is not Aser, so then we don't make a knas. So fact the Mishabura and Sivkot and Beis, let him do a kasha. He says, what, the Rashbam is nicht the Maram Hugi Dugi. Rashbam is brought in place, and the Rashbam holds Irui is not Mevashal. The Rashbam holds Irui is not Mevashal. So why in the world do we ask him at the end? Mishabura, I think Mishabura played share the shayla, no? I like Cooper. Mishabura says here, Prima Gadim, who came to Cousin Morgan Avram Shin Chokim, Ayin Sivkotin Lamed Beis. Sarchian? Ksas. What's the pshat Ksas? What's the kind of Bishul? No, but that Mishabura says first. That's only mistakes and chumras. We said it, but we don't ask it at the end. So Rabbi, interesting answer. Rabbi Khan wants to say, maybe it's like a double reason to be machmer. First of all, it's at least a cliche, and some are machmer and cliche. We are on August to be machmer and cliche because we don't even know. Plus, we paskin anyways that irui is mevashal kedei klipa. No, so if you put this all together, that's what he wants to say. That's what he wants to say. You put this all together, you have to be machmer every day. Why? It's still a respectable shita. If you'd ask your spam, what do we have to talk about? War is complicated. How Hebrew works, but I don't know. But it's only a tarchin ksas. I don't know. The answer probably is not every shita is respected. And even though it says over here in the Mishabura, I mean that's why he says tarchin ksas, right? But that's why. What does the Mishabura say over here? Mishabura brings down. Listen to the lashon of how he brings it. He says. His lashon is. He says, "The yesh safek pluksa, by b'shar malachas ain't lesser b'diavad. Call this rek b'derbanan katzua. Sfek b'derbanan kula prima gadim. Ukein te kasav magen Avram. V'ayin sivkot lamed beis. He means magen Avram lamed beis, not the Mishabura lamed beis. Sorry, he means magen Avram lamed beis. B'tzarchi in ksas. What's the pshat? What's the pshat? Akanira the pshat is is if you have somebody that in halacha is considered a das yochid. A das yochid, that's already too far. A das yochid, it's a chiddush because it's Rashbam is a shita that all the Rishonim bring and reckon with. So they all discuss it and they all come together. But I guess if you have mamish a world war against the Rashbam, and every single Rishon brings the Rashbam and everyone argue on them across the board, you're going to find some big achron and he's going to bring down 40 other Rishonim that paskin like the Rashbam. You all know in halacha it doesn't work like that. In halacha it doesn't work like that. Lists and things like that. In halacha there's the big names, there's the Rif, the Rosh, the Rambam, and the names that the Beis Yosef had, and that's how we're kavei halacha l'maisa. And so that's why Mishabur says sarachim ksas, because Mishabur, if you would have asked him, he would have preferred to have said no. That even if you have a favar from a shita, a far out shita, but nonetheless, if it's a shita, especially Rashbam, he would have preferred that in this case maybe taka to be mekel b'diavad. But the yisoid is what the Mishabur is trying to say. Meaning, I think the tzarich ksas is the Mishabur for sure agrees to the yisoid. If you have a far out shita, then we're not going to say b'diavad. It's okay to be saying on some far out shita that you find. That for sure the Mishabur agrees with. The tzarich ksas of the Mishabur is why are you calling the Rashbam a far out shita when it's a shita that every single shita of the Rishonim is reckoning with and they're all discussing it. You can't just not reckon with. Okay, that's Pashup Shah. It's a way said, I had two shilas on Yontif. Okay, this is a heroically reaching and whatnot. This is that's right. I had one shilah. Now, Iroy is Mavashal. How much is Iroy Mavashal? Kedei Klipa. How much is a Klipa? Outside layer. The Klipa in halacha means you'd be able to peel it off. The thinnest outside layer that you'd be able to peel it off, and get a full amount. The kashrus, this makes a difference. Also, as you know, so I had one tell you, the mamash geshmak shayla on Yontif. One was Erev Yontif, and one was on Yontif. One was actually Erev Yontif, and one was Ma'aseh Yontif. Sorry, but Erev Yontif somehow you get the siyata d'shmaya of all the shilas of milchiks. I guess because there's milchiks and fleishiks going on at the same time. That's usually you don't have that. So that's why you have the shayla. So one shayla is like this: somebody made a milchika boiling hot chocolate, some type of a milk chocolate, liquidy, syrupy thing. Okay, it's a milk to pour onto their cheesecake. Okay, that's their minute. What do you want? That they made a boiling hot milk something, but milk chocolate, not like the cheap power stuff, but like the stuff with the cow and everything, the whole thing, right? And everyone knows what I'm talking about. Milk chocolate. In the milk chocolate, there were two stories. I don't want to mess them up. One was this one, a sauce like a milk sauce. This one spilled. Okay, we're gonna have fun with this game. But this one spilled when they were walking with it, and they tripped, and they spilled straight onto a roast, but not onto the roast itself. It spilled on the outside layer of the roast. Now I know the silver foil. There's a silver foil covering the roast, and boiling hot chocolate spilled onto them. I was so happy. For me, this is so geschmack. I knew that next week I would come into the Kallus and I would have a shot. I didn't know if I was coming in actually, but I knew that I would have a shot. It spilled boiling hot. Well, I told the person, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that. Boiling hot. So what's the first question you got to ask? The first question you have to ask is what? What? The first question you have to ask is, was the roast hot also? Because if the roast is hot, checkmate, then it's going to be tsaras, right? It's going to be mamish, maybe sometimes a klishurishin because it was in the thing it was cooked in, boiling hot. And now the boiling hot liquid and the boiling hot this and everybody, and even if it wouldn't be boiling hot liquid, it would be tata gover, and it goes straight through the silver foil. When you have a piece of milk that goes onto a cholim pot, it goes straight through an halacha. That's in Yeridei, and Sivan Tzadi and Siv Hey, and Vav, and Zion. It's Sivan Tzadi Bey, Siv Hey, Vav, Zion. It goes straight through. If you have a piece of milk, a drop of milk that goes onto a cholim pot, it goes straight through. Now you have to see if it went straight through, does it get bittled or not. Then it starts like Yehuda. Then it gets difficult. Here, the first question asked, was the roast hot? They said, no, it was cold. It was sitting on the countertop. And the liquidy, chocolatey syrup, hot syrup, went onto the silver foil. Right? So what's the answer? The answer is, you have a major problem. Major problem. Major problem. You know what you did? You have Eroy. You know this already. You have an Eroy coming from a Klirishin. This was the pot that they cooked the chocolate sauce in. The major problem. Eroy Klirishin is what? Is mamish mevashal and mavliya. How much is it mevashal and mavliya? Kedei klipa. I told him that silver foil is treif. According to all the paiskim. right? I don't think even the Rashbam would be makel here. I have my cheshbon. That silver foil is absolutely tray. If you take that silver foil, you throw it out. I told him maybe you can kasher the silver foil. There's still shaila Allah if you're able to kasher silver foil. No shaila. We have a slow about the big shaila. You can kasher silver foil. I'm not makel to kasher the silver foil. So I told them they must throw out the silver foil. You know what I'm saying? But you all know the answer to this now because you're learning Eroi Klivishin. So you all know only thing that Eroi is able to do for is okay, klipa. So what do you need cows for? Just for the stories. But you all know this. That once you got the silver, once you got the klipa's worth, okay, now you have to be careful, make sure that when you're taking it off, it doesn't trip inside. Usually it'll trip inside anyways, but the evidence was probably about the shishim. Well, that's under the shmuz. Right? That's us. That's Kenzai. That's Kenzai. Oh, no, it can't be bottled. It's the outside layer. You have to cut it off. It's not bottled. We see it. Just go cut it off. Oh, so then we have something else. Now, once it went in, so now we have to talk. And that's a Shem when we learn kashrus over here. There, it doesn't stay on the outside layer. It goes straight through. Oh, you mean the bottom is cold? You mean when the bottom is cold? Because if the bottom is hot, then it cooks straight through. No, let's not go into it. I don't want to go into kashrus. Any of those kashrus I'll answer after. But in this case over here, Rabbi Bolson, it's very simple. The liquid chocolate sauce is mevashel. Eroi was coming from a klivishin and poured straight onto a kedei klipa. What is it mevashel? It mevashel that silver foil, and that is treif. Good, crystal clear. Everybody clear? Okay, and that's only if the pot is cold. If she's hot, it's a different story. Yeah. But then, so I started having like all these different thoughts. Then when I was gonna come in, I was gonna give a whole shir about this chocolate sauce. And I was going to talk about all different things that come up with the chocolate sauce and different scenarios of how it's spilled and how it could have spilled. Myself, let's talk about something else for a second. Watch this. Yeah, that I'm going to talk about also. Rabbi Rosenberg wants to know about pouring. Yeah, that we can talk about. We'll see. Pouring water onto an unpeeled egg. That we have to see. We'll see. But watch this. He's asking if I take boiling hot water and I pour it onto the eggshell, right? So eggshell there's nothing to cook in an eggshell, right? You can't cook an eggshell. An eggshell is it's like cooking wood. You pour boiling hot water. I gotta take boiling hot water and pour it onto the tabletop. I mean, my father would be very happy because he'll have to buy a new one. But does that cook the table? I don't think it cooks the table. It doesn't. So if you take boiling hot water and you pour it onto an egg, the chayr doesn't cook the egg. Elamai, but now it's going to be inside a cliche. You got to take it out. You just take. Why would somebody do that? Why would anybody do that? Okay, it's not normal, but he just wants to know: is it also to do that on Shabbos? Right? So chayr, that's a klipa. She's a klipa. The outside layer of an egg, that's a klipa. Okay. Now, please say, pause. Come again? No, why? Yeah, I'm saying it. Awesome. Now, please say, it's a thing. Now, Rabbi say, so Motzei Yontif, watch what happened. Somebody cleaned up milchiks and fleshik silverware. Right? It got confusing. I told you why do these shadows happen in stomach, because most of the time you don't have people using fleishiks and milchiks and silverware at the same time. That's how it goes, right? So somebody realized that they were washing around in the sink milchiks and fleshik and say, how does that happen? The way they described it to me was like Yehuda. There was like mamish fleshik forks and milchik forks in there, and they wanted to know what now. All the forks that they have in there, mamish pieces of cow and mamish the milk from the cow, mamish. So they wanted to know whether kalim kosher, not kosher. Now I know all of you know right away. Soap, not soap. You're all excited about the soap. Wait, let's get there. Let's learn it from our subject first. I want to know what happened here. Yeah. So the first question you have to ask: did you use hot water? And if they used cold water, so then everything is water. Okay, fine. So they tell you they used hot water. So then they tell you no. So before we even go weiter, how hot is hot? Oh, it was very, very hot. They ask him, how hot is hot? No, it must have been mamish, like lukewarm. Okay. So then we still don't have a problem. Then they tell you, ooh, it was hot. Now I must tell you, a lot of times inside the actual sink. Now there's a lot of cheshbon, so let's build it. I have 10 minutes. Let's see what we get. But a lot of times, Rabbi say, when it comes to, there's a lot of cheshbon to them those, but I want to build it from our sugya, and trying to figure out what is your sink. That's what we're going to try and get to. But Rabbi say, before we get there, I want you to realize a lot of people right away say, come on, is the water hot? How can it be hot to let us by? I'm washing my hands with it. Now, if you've been learning in this room, you know that's not a kasha for about 3 or 4 reasons. Number one is Yad Soledis does not mean Yad Nichbis. It doesn't mean I burn my hands in it. It means Yad Soledis. It means your hands could get burnt. We'll say, obviously, there's shirim we're going to see, but amounts. But Yad Soledis means not that you get scolded when you put it in. That's what you're seeing. Yad Soledis means that my hand, if it would remain in there, or somebody's hand, it depends on your hand. But it's like, there was an Arab worker today. I saw he wasn't by my house. He was in the house right next to me. And there was he was fixing some type of a wire over there. He was fixing the wire. I saw this in my own eyes. Just to understand, some people's hands are, it's unbelievable, right? He was the person, they were putting on a brick. They were fixing like some tile work, right? The other guy came and he dropped. I saw this. He dropped. It was like like three bricks like this, straight onto his hand like that was there, putting on the brick. He just dropped it down. Those were the next bricks he was going to use. And he dropped it straight onto him. Us, forget mommy, right? Us, what would happen if it would happen to us? Us, right? Him, what did he do? He just looked at the other Arab and went, right? Like that. And then went back. Right? Could he put his hand in? It's a para Adam. The Maral says it's not Adam para. Para Adam, the Maral says. He's not bad that you think it's Adam who's a para, like a wild man. No. He's wild. His Matthias is not man. Right? And then he happens to look like a person. Man, I think it's called a werewolf. They have such a thing. Something? Us? I ask you, can that guy wash his hands Rabbi say in 140 degrees? Yeah. So it's not a riot from his hand. It's not a riot from different people's hands. And also women's hands. You know how it is. Your wife tells you, could you go and get from the oven that, sometimes like those glass, I'm talking about this, like, what do they call it? Pyrex. Tyrex. She just go get it. You go, grounds for divorce. What you do to me? And she does that. She takes it like this. So they're different people's hands. Don't tell me about your hands and God's silent. Understand what I'm saying? God's silent means it's a type of water that's why we're going to see all types of shirim, 110 degrees, 120 degrees, 130 degrees, 140 degrees, 150 degrees, 60 degrees, 170 degrees, right? But there definitely are respectable shitas out there, and it's not Yad Nichbes. So therefore, can you wash your hands in Yad Soledis water? According to most of the poskim, you definitely are washing your hands in Yad Soledis by water. So that's third of all, Rabbi Sai, and I see somebody just chatted this in, right? So Oiska chatted. He said, what do you mean? They wear gloves. And that's another question you should ask. And a lot of ladies today, they wear gloves because they don't want their hands to get chapped. But it's Corona. I don't have to explain people wearing gloves today, right? Everybody's wearing gloves today, right? So Mela, there's a lot of people wearing gloves. And the Mela, when you wear gloves, your hands can be cycled till 140, 150. So when you ask the question, is the water hot? Don't just have in the back of your mind, it's probably not Yad Soledis. Could be, it's going to be maybe it's Sirif. I'm not saying it's not, but it definitely is possible that the water is Yad Soledis. Okay? Now we want to know one question. Let's say the water is hot, and let's say I'm worried, therefore it's Yad Soledis. What's the din of my faucet? What's the din of my faucet? Is my faucet an Iroy from a Kli Rishon? And then Mamela, we know it's Shadasa. That's when all the problems start, right? Iroy Kli Rishon Shadasa. Right? Or is the water coming out of my faucet a Kli 19? What's a Kli 19? It starts out in the boiler, okay? Then the boiler is, let's say, the Kli Rishon. Then there's a pipe that's coming from them. You have one pipe, Kli Sheni. Then takes a left turn, there's another pipe, Kli Shlishi. Okay? Then you go over here, and then, like a neighbor's house, it comes there for. By the time it gets back to you, Kli 19. Kli 19. So what's the din of Iroy Kli 19? Mutter. Right? That's a good shaila. Or do we say, no, it's all one big attached pipe, right? So Rabbi Levin, what do you say, Misfar? So I would have said, no, the opposite. He says the walls of the pipe get boiling hot. Maybe it's true after time and whatever. No, so does your Kli Sheni's wall get piping hot. No, so what would you say, Misfar? What would you say, Misfar? Is the sink, is it going to be a Kli Rishon, Iroy from Kli Rishon? This is all or nothing, Rabbi said. This lady, she's taking the milchik fork, she's taking the fleshik fork. There's a piece of cow over there. There's a baby cow. There's a milk cow there, right? And there she's mixing them and washing together. And then she didn't get with the soap. In other words, you with the soap. Relax with the soap. We'll get to the soap. Okay? We'll get to the soap. Okay? What? Yes, hold on. I want to know the answer to my question. Misvara, is it a Kli 19 or not? Misvara, right? 19. He said Misvara is a Kli 19. Right? And he says, what do you mean? He says Misvara is a Kli Rishon. So I can tell you like this. I can tell you, me, I don't know what this verse. Misvara, please. Yosi Nimuka Ima, the Gemara Gittin says, Yosi was the Balsfar. You're big enough to say that you know Svar? Who's big enough to say? I set you up for this. Huh? Who knows? Who can say Svar today? You know, that Rabbi Kiveger writes in one place, the base mayor writes in Mashayla, and he says to him that the base mayor writes, Raya, a strong Raya, and this and that. And then Rabbi Kiveger goes on, he says, you should know, I have a Svara. Talk to the Raya you're bringing. That brings out the Raya. The base mayor only said he had some Raya, and the Kiveger said it to me Svara like that, right? He says, but I'm going to tell you, you know why why the base mayor didn't want to say the Svara? He's talking to the base mayor. You know why you don't want to say Svara? Because you say what? You think from a Svara. Many of Maroyim were afraid of Svaras. You think from like a Svara, a personality there, Svara has the right to say something. No, so all we're left with is Uriah. The Uriah shlugs up. That's his nice letter to the base mayor. But I'll confront him. Kiveger held the base mayor as mamish like the God letter. Okay, he was afraid of two people. That Kiveger, afraid of the Sivan and the base mayor. The base mayor. I confront him. Me, I'm not going to say misvar. But why do you have to trouble yourself to say misvar? Mamish, it's a mefurish ramah. Mefurish ramah. What's a shaila? What's a shaila? What's a shaila? If I had to speak it out in English, Iroi. From a Kli Rishon, we know what's the din of Iroi from a Kli Rishon. Iroi Kli Rishon is mevashal, and it causes trouble. It's mavliya, and it causes trade. So if you would take boiling hot water, we'll see, it's not so simple, nothing simple. But if you take boiling hot water and pour it onto the spoon and the knife, one was fleishiks, one was milk, let's make it even more gishmak. It was mamish. It had shamnunis on it, it had milk, and it had meat, and you poured boiling hot water. In those days, fancy people with sinks. Fancy people. And everybody has a sink. No, Rabbi Gindi, in the theory you have a sink, everybody has a sink. Halavai. So what do you have to do? You have to take a bucket of, you take an urn, boiling hot water, and you pour that boiling hot water, that's Irei Kli Rishon, that trafes up, that should trafe up the milk, the kalim, the fleishic kalim, everything is trafed, right? Okay, so what do we want to know? That would be Pashut. We want to know like this. What happens when you have an Irui? Now we all know there's something called Irui that's Nifsak HaKiluach, and we know there's something called an Irui that's not Nifsak HaKiluach. What's an Irui that's Nifsak HaKiluach? Nifsak HaKiluach means that it plops out. Grata, by the case of the chocolate sauce, I didn't tell you this, but be'emes, anyways, what happened is that it flew in the air, it didn't like spill straight onto the roast, the way it was described to me. And then anyways, that would be Irui, which was a Nifsak HaKiluach. What's the din of Irui that's Nifsak HaKiluach? So then it doesn't have a din anymore of an Irui of a Kli Rishon. And so Mishabura says over here, and you've gotten Ayin Daled, Mishabura says, Irui. Okay, maybe in Yeridea it'll still be a klisheni, and maybe we're not a klisheni, but a ganze roast, that's a hefsek gadol, right? That's so Mishabura over here, you've got $9. He says, afilu b'diavad and ir lehedge aleim sheloi nifsak hakiluach. But if it's nifsak hakiluach, that's the version of Mishabura. Nifsak hakiluach doesn't have a din of Kli Rishon. Crystal clear so far? Clear? Good. Now, so over here, we want to know like this. When you have boiling hot water from the Kli Rishon and you're pouring it straight onto the kalim, then you have La Yehudim. Because that's Iroi Kli Rishon and whatever. Let's make it, 212 and the water coming straight, attaching itself straight back to the walls of this Kli Rishon. But Mashenkein, if it would be Nifsak HaKiluach, then it would be a klisheni, and another klisheni, it will be a lot more leeway. Now, Baisai, what's over here by a pipe? Do I say that once you hit a cold surface, which we'll discuss if the pipes are cold, no, but once I hit another surface, it's certainly not the surface that is on the fire itself. Certainly not the surface which is on the fire itself. So do I say, no, but sof safe, the water is still connected back to the fire, and that's called loy nifsak hakiluach, it's still connected? Or do I say that's called nifsak hakiluach? That's called that it's already nifsak hakiluach and it's no longer connected. It's nifsak to the connection to the fire. Kivyachol, the walls could maybe be mitzan in it. We have fighting walls over here. You have the walls of the Kli Rishon, which are giving it fire. It's connected to those walls. On the other hand, you have walls that it's touching mamish that are cooling it down. How do you dance such a thing? So mismar, Adam, come to gain the Ramah in Sivan Sadi Beis in Sivan. This is in the first Ramah. This is mamish in the first Rama. The line before he says "Kein mashma" in the Trumas Maram. Over here, it doesn't say mashma. This is the Trumas Hadeshen in Sivan Kupei Aleph. Said the Trumas Hadeshen. If you have a milk pot, listen closely. You have your chocolate sauce and your milk chocolate, it's there, and it's boiling in a pot, and it bubbles over, right? And the truth is, I don't even know if it bubbles over. It's rotachas, it's hot. But it doesn't necessarily, we'll see, it might not even be on the fire, but it's a boiling kli rishon. That's the first over here in the Shach. We have milk in a kli rishon, and the milk spills over. Listen, let's follow the milk. Kiluach min hakederes halach el kederes tzeinenes. Look what happened over here. I have over here, this is my milk pot. I have over here my fleshik pot. The milchik pot had boiling hot milk. The milk goes over the side and is connected still. The milk is connected still. And the milk is traveling on the floor of the kira. Karka kira. It's going on your stovetop, basically. Okay? It's not hot, the stovetop. We're not dealing with a hot stovetop, says the Rabbi. If the milk goes over here and there's a separation between the milk and the pot, it just splatters over there. So then he says, no. That's already no problem. That's a klisheni. No problem. It doesn't answer the fleshik pot. Okay? Mashiach Kain says the Ramah. Listen to the words of Ramah. If the milk spilled over and continues, as it continues, and it's continuous flow from the hot pot. You hear what's going on here, Kindle? It's getting the milk is hot, backed by the previous drop of milk. The tree keeps on going all the way. Then it touches the fleshik pot. Says hey the Grama, Imayat, Saledis, Bakiluach, and Agea, Hatzinenis, Nesra. The tafshil inside is, the chalit inside is, no, mutar, because the only thing you can do is a klipa. All it is an eroi from a klirishin. The eroi from the klirishin can go all the way to the fleshik pot. The most it can do is it can go and answer the outside of the pot. Okay, so it answers the outside of the pot. The chalit inside, she's safe. Good? Crystal clear? So now come back to our case. Says the Trumas Hadeshen, mamish this. He says, what's the lump this here? Says the Trumas Hadeshen, here I have a case. Listen to his Amaisa. He says, I have a case of where she's attached to the fire through the liquid. The liquid attaches her back to not the fire, but to the klirishin, whatever. It attaches her back to walls, which were cooking on the fire. He says, but I have new walls, which are cooling it down. Yeah? I have new walls, which are cooling it down. So he says, so what's the din when you have new walls cooling it down? The halacha is, he says, that is considered a eroi from a klirishin. Eroi from a klirishin. No. So he says, how do I know this? Says the Trumas Hadeshen, it's in Frushi Gemara and Shabbos and Daf and Beis. Our study. Says the Trumas Hadeshen, the Gemara and Shabbos and Daf and Beis says that what? That there was, Rabbi was there in the mikvah. Not in the mikveh, he was in the shvitz, he was there, and he was in a boiling hot pool in Chane Tveria. Geschmack. There he was on Dacha in the boiling hot water. So they told him, should we put in some oil? Oil is the geschmack. You know those chevra in these Turkish bathhouses, they always have all their interesting scents. And, they close the door, and they have those special scents and everything. So they told Rabbi, we have this geschmack of oil. So Rabbi said, take it out in a klisheni and put it inside the klisheni. Why? Because you can't put it straight into my bath. Because if you put it into my bath, you'll be cooking the oil. Frank the Trumas Hadeshen. What do you think? Do you think that Rabbi was mamish? He was inside the Chane Tveria where the fire is. When he was in the bathhouse, the fire, mamish. What do you think? He says the case, and Rashi explains. The case is Rabbi. There was a Chane Tveria, which was a boiling hot source of water. That's a klirishin. They made some type of an enclave, what is it called in English? Kind of a word for this stuff. What's it called? Diversion. You're looking to me, Sharma? Some canal. No, some Suez garden that the water came out and went on the floor, continued on the floor into the bath where Rabbi was sitting. That's what first came out in the Gemara. That's our Rashi. So he says, so where's Rabbi? Rabbi's in a klisheni. Rabbi's not in a klisheni, he's in a klisheni. You see from here, my side, that even though the water got cooled down by the walls of the bath, we'll call it, the walls of the bath, but doesn't matter. Since it's a continuous flow, from something which has a fire source, a heat source. So therefore, the din is, it's called an iroi, and that is considered to be mevash. That's considered to be an iroi, and therefore Rabbi had to say, take it out and put it into a cliche, because inside the bath is taka considered still a kli. So now, at Khan, it's an hour. I see the shear is over. We have a very big steer to this. But if I had to end the shear right now, which I am, I had to end the shear right now. So then, Tachlis, what's the din of your boiler, which is underneath the house, and the water comes out and goes from this kli to that kli to the 20th kli? The chayra, like Rabbi Greenhouse said, that we would say, this is a mefurish ramah. The boiler, it's a mefurish ramah. It's game over. Mefurish ramah. It goes into this kli, it goes into that kli. Who cares? Is it any different than the milk that's going and rolling on the floor of the kiro, and the kiro is freezing cold, and it goes along, as long as it's connected to the boiler, it doesn't matter how many kalim it went through, as long as it's all one connected thing, and it's still connected, the water is for sure connected. There's no nifsak hakidua. So the feed is, those people that called, if they had boiling hot water, the chayr, it's either from a klivishin, and you're gonna have to stay tuned until tomorrow. You have to stay tuned until tomorrow. But that's what comes out so far, right? How was today? Let me just make sure everybody here heard me. No, answer some questions. How was it? Wait, now I put on my mask. You guys are coming near me. You're okay, one second. Wait, and today everybody heard and everybody saw? Just write me in chat because you're all frozen. But everybody heard and everybody saw and everything was great. Boiler does the bell. Thank you. Thank you too. But everybody heard and everybody saw? I'm getting these little yellow thumbs. Okay, heard great. Saw great. You saw or no? You guys heard me see it? Came to you. Video not so great? 1 second. Who says video not so great? Nah, he spelled video wrong, so he's not right. Who says video not so great? It was great. Thank you. Pascal says it's great. Okay. You're all good. Okay, let's answer questions.
The chocolate sauce that went in the ear, that was considered a
That it happened to be in that case the chocolate sauce. The way it worked is that the chocolate sauce flew in the air. It was a nifsak hakiluch.
There's never ear then. So every time you pour out of urn, it's going in the ear.
No, because it's still connected.